I am going to go ahead and call to order the LOCAC meeting for October 24th, 2024 at 6:30. I'm going to do a roll call. Andrea,
Present.
Jim,
Yes.
both are here.
Salio's here,
yeah. All right, I got you both. Danielle?
Here.
Gary? No. Brad?
Yes, here.
Deborah, excused. John?
I'm here.
Present. Okay. I think Molly?
Here.
Present. And Trish Bartel is present. I am Trish Bartel. I am the chair for tonight's meeting. And the only announcement for chairperson announcements we have is that we still have an opening in District 2 for a LOCAC member. So I'm hoping, just please spread the word.
District 1.
District 1. She had District 2 on here. We will get that right. Thank you. Are there any council member announcements? I don't see any hands up. Okay. Do we have the sheriff here tonight?
Trish, I do not see anybody sheriff-ish.
Okay. I don't see sheriff or highway patrol-ish.
Nope.
Okay. Dan Heimel, do not see him either. Okay, this is going quick. Claire, I am going to ask you to unmute. Oh, don't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, that was super quick. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
My name is Claire Momberger. I'm a planner with County Planning and Building Department. I'm here every month to give kind of an update from my corner of the world. And so I'll just work through that and then I can take any questions at the end of my update. I just kind of want to start with informing people who are in the community that may have been following along and maybe not have been following along with what has been going on in Los Osos. There's some exciting stuff going on. To kind of start with a recap, my department hosted a town hall at Loams at the middle school on October 5th, a couple weekends ago. Thank you to those who were in attendance. We had a really great turnout of almost 300 people. I personally had some really real and productive conversations with people in the community and appreciated that. And everything that was shared at the town hall, we had like some posters, some frequently asked questions. Those kind of materials are all on our website, and I can share a link to that in the chat if that would be helpful for people. The purpose of that town hall was to inform the community of what the County Board of Supervisors will be considering at a hearing next Tuesday as it relates to the Los Osos Community Plan, the growth rate for the community, the mechanics of the Los Osos waitlist to build, and the Los Osos Habitat Conservation Plan. So next Tuesday on October 29th, in the afternoon, I believe, at the board chambers on Monterey Street in downtown San Luis Obispo, Planning and Building Department staff will be asking the Board of Supervisors to consider acceptance of the California Coastal Commission suggested modifications to our local coastal program amendment. That's related to the action that the Coastal Commission took on that amendment back on June 13th. So we'll be asking the board to consider and accept those modifications. We're also going to be asking the Board of Supervisors to consider adopting amendments to our county's growth management ordinance, which would include a 1% cap on annual residential development in the community. Those amendments would tie the growth rate to the best available groundwater data and also establish a clear structure for the mechanics of the Los Osos waitlist to build. Now, a couple weeks ago on October 8th, the Board of Supervisors shared concerns about the implementation of our approved habitat conservation plan for Los Osos. We intend to still have a productive conversation about that with the board next Tuesday on the 29th. Staff anticipates receiving direction from the board on how they want the habitat conservation plan to be implemented. And whatever that direction might be next Tuesday, staff anticipates coming back to the board in December. So if the board gives our staff direction next Tuesday on the parameters for the implementation of the habitat conservation plan, so that could be the amount of the loan, the source of the loan, how they would like us to focus on conservation activities, those kind of parameters. Staff will go back to work and consider those parameters and create an implementation package that reflects those. And then, like I said, we're targeting to come back to the board in December for the board to take final action. So if the Board of Supervisors accepts Coastal Commission's suggested modifications next Tuesday, we'll send to Coastal Commission what that document looks like incorporating those modifications. And we would anticipate the Coastal Commission to finally certify our local coastal program amendment in December. And then if the board adopts our amendments to the growth management ordinance next Tuesday, we will begin preparing the noticing process in November to notify people on the wait list by January 1st that a growth rate, that the building moratorium will be lifting in January and that there will be a growth rate. The growth management ordinance amendments that staff is proposing that the board will hear next week do not mean that we have new units available right away. We'll have to go back to the board in December for them to approve that number of units. So that was a lot. There are a lot of layers. Next Tuesday is going to be a really big day for the community. It's kind of the culmination of decades of work on the vision for the community and how that will play out. So please, if you can, come out to the meeting on the 29th next Tuesday. Like I said, our item is in the afternoon, I believe. I'm going to be placing a link in the chat here that contains how you can access the staff report and all the attached materials to review before the board hearing next Tuesday. I'll also put the town hall materials in that chat as well, but that was a mouthful. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
All right, I have the first hand up is Andrea.
Thanks, Trish. And thanks, Claire. Wonderful as usual. Two questions, and one might be better for Mr. Gibson. Can you summarize what the issues were regarding the habitat conservation plan? And then is there any potential that the habitat conservation plan is going to have to go back to Fish and Wildlife?
Yeah, I can answer that, and then if Supervisor Gibson wants to add anything, you're welcome to. What was brought up at the board on October 8th, and the reason it was brought up, when we amend ordinances, which is that growth management part of this package, we have to introduce that to the board, so there's enough time for noticing. But obviously that item is tied to the habitat conservation plan. So that's the reason that it came up on October 8th. The way I'd summarize, what concerns were brought up was really about there's a loan that's required for implementation of the habitat conservation plan. A lot of the concerns were around where the sourcing of that loan, what the source of that loan would be, and kind of the parameters around that, and also the different asks that come with implementing. And so that's what came up on October 8th. That's what staff will be addressing next week, bringing more information before the board and the community. And I think I forgot your last question, Andrea.
Any potential it's going to have to go back to U.S. Fish and Wildlife?
Thank you. So the Habitat Conservation Plan was approved by the service, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, in February of this year. Our implementation of that is kind of up to the county, as long as the implementation follows what's prescribed in the plan. So the way we go about that is why it's a part of the process next Tuesday. So because there's a funding request as part of implementation, that's why the board is involved. But as far as I'm aware, the service would not have to change anything because the plan is approved and the community-wide incidental take permit that we have for the next 25 years, the clock is ticking on that permit. So we can, move forward with implementation. I hope that helps clear things up a bit.
Thanks, Claire. Very helpful.
All right, the next hand up is John.
Yeah, so on the same lines, Claire, I'm understanding that the crux of the problem for Supervisor Ortiz-Legg was the dollar amount of what it would cost to do the loan. And my question is, and it was $6 million. And my question is, why does it take so much money to implement a plan? What was budgeted for $6 million that would require that kind of expense that has held up our program now?
Thanks for that question, John. I don't think I am the perfect person to answer the details about the $6 million loan because I'm not the manager on the project. I would encourage you to check out the staff report that I just sent sent the link for in the chat, because it does speak to the loan request that will be before the board and what that will be used for. I mean, there's yeah, I would check that out if that's okay to defer that for right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We can defer that. So go ahead and check out everyone who's on, check out the chat at the bottom of your screen, and that will have the links that you need. If not, I do have it also, and I can send it to you later today or tomorrow. Any other questions from council? Any questions from community? Please raise your hand. Okay, I don't see any hands raised. And if you don't know how to do that, just really raise your hand and I can probably see you if you have your video on. Okay, Claire, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I will definitely try to be there on the 29th to hear what's going on.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Bruce Gibson, how are you tonight? I'm going to ask you to unmute.
It worked this time.
Yep.
I am very well, thank you. And wonderful to be here with you as always. I don't have a huge amount extra to report since my life, I think similar to Claire's, has largely revolved around the Los Osos Community Plan, Growth Management Ordinance, HCP, and other details of what's before us on the 29th. Claire, as usual, did a fantastic job giving you the details on that. Let me just add a couple of things that I know about, as to why the HCP got pulled out. Yes, cost was part of it, but I think the bigger issue was this is a huge amount of information, and while I've lived and breathed it for the last 18 years, my colleagues haven't, and I think they just wanted a little time to get comfortable with it. John, to your question as to why $6 million, the nature, and I agree, by the way, I agree with Claire, I don't see any reason that the HCP has to go back to the Fish and Wildlife Service. We're in implementation phase right now, and we'll move on that when we can. The reason that there's a loan being proposed, and if it's $6 million or some other amount, is that in order we have to do what's called a keep ahead with the Habitat Conservation Plan. That means that we have to show that we have either acquired or restored properties before we can grant individual projects the ability to use that restoration as mitigation for their particular project. And so there was a calculation that was reviewed by the internal county debt advisory committee that looked at what it would take to acquire enough land and to do enough restoration to provide a reasonable pool of credits so that as people under the growth management ordinance came forward, wanted to do projects, that we would have those credits to sell them, basically. The amount of money that it costs both to front end that and also the amount that's charged, if you can imagine the fees that are coming in from individual projects will go to pay back that loan. That's the intent of that, and the financial plan sets it out that that loan gets repaid within 10 years or so. So the amount that's charged is based on the cost of doing business, which is what typically is the market price of acquiring lands that are suitable for this kind of conservation. What's the cost of actually doing restoration, and what's the cost of administering this program? Because over the long run, we need to monitor these properties and assure that the restored land is staying as it is. So, you know, the effort between the meeting on the 8th and the hopeful return of this on the 10th of December is about making sure that all the supervisors are comfortable with the process we're engaging there, and also to see if there's a way in which we can tweak the financial plan, so perhaps we don't have to borrow quite so much money up front. It's just a financial planning aspect and an educational aspect. I'm pretty confident with a conversation that I've had that I think we'll get that all worked through, and I'm looking at success on the 10th. And the fundamental reason is that this community-wide habitat conservation plan is by far and away the easiest and the least expensive way to deal with the impacts to sensitive resources. You know, we could go ahead without an HCP, but each individual residential parcel would have to do its own mitigation, which would mean hiring a biologist and dealing with the Fish and Wildlife Service. And that takes years, and that takes tons and tons of money. So in fact, when the fees for the habitat conservation plan are stacked up along with the other fees that would be charged to development in Los Osos, in fact, that developing in Los Osos will not be the most expensive community in the county. And just for reference, I'll note that if you're to develop a parcel inside the boundaries of the Templeton Community Services District, if you will pay for your water and wastewater connection $56,000 just for that connection, and then the other normal permit fees and the road impact fees and the school fees and all of that is above and beyond. So actually, development in Templeton is going to cost more in terms of those fees by a lot than it will in Los Osos. So I think once we get that perspective laid out, I think it'll be. I think we'll have a good path forward. And again, I'm expecting success on the 10th of December, if that indeed holds as the date we get this. In any case, all of that simply needs to be ready next year to really get this program going.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Yes, John?
Bruce, could you say in plain English what mitigation property would be an example and how much it would cost? Would we be buying land from BLM?
No.
Where are we buying land?
So we'd be buying land around the identified greenbelt area around the external part of the community of Los Osos. The biggest place where restoration is possible is on land that's owned by the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. Think surrounding the Broderson site and areas to the east of the Broderson site. There's a lot of damage that's occurred over the years to that habitat, and our ability to restore that habitat is going to be, that's going to be a big focus of our restoration eventually. There are parcels that are near the edge of the developed part of town that are in private ownership, and I can't visualize them exactly. And to be honest, I don't know what the cost of those might be. But what I do know is that acquiring land gets us credits immediately. If we acquire a certain number of acres of land, we get a certain number of credits. If we restore a certain number of acres of land, those credits are a little bit longer in coming because we've got to demonstrate that the restoration is actually doing what we thought it was going to do. So there's a balance between getting this started with some acquisition and sustaining it with a restoration program, and that's all to be worked out through the management of this whole process.
Thank you very much. We're going to go to Andrea and then we'll go to Nairi. Andrea, I'm going to ask you to unmute. Somehow you got muted.
Oh, I muted because my dog was also speaking.
Oh, yeah, that happens.
Yeah.
I represent all constituents of Los Osos. Your dog is free to address me if he wishes.
I'll let Matilda know. Let's see, a couple of months ago, the Board of Supervisors allocated, I think it was Caltrans funds for feasibility studies for operations and maintenance ports at Port San Luis and Morro Bay.
Yeah. And
I think part of that, and part of the funds, but I don't think where they were allocated were for some outreach. Mm-hmm. And I believe that item was going to come back to the board. And can you let me know when that will be coming back to the board in terms of outreach? I'm thinking outreach, it'll be used for outreach to the community for their input, but that's just what I'm thinking. Yeah, to my knowledge, the outreach plan does not come back to our board for approval. We have taken action there. What this was $1 million earmark that Senator Laird received out of the state budget in 2023's budget. And we have allocated about, I want to just say roughly 600,000, maybe close to 2/3 of that has gone to a contractor who's going to study the county-wide port infrastructure. There are a lot of things in the study that don't depend, that we look at all three of the potential partners, Cal Poly, Port San Luis, Morro Bay. So 2/3 of this goes to a broad examination. There may be a public outreach component of that. I don't remember the details of that. The other third or so of that money was distributed to sub-recipients, is the technical term, but it was distributed directly to the city of Morro Bay, the Port San Luis Harbor District, and Cal Poly. And I would imagine those two public agencies would be conducting outreach, but it's really up to them how they do that. So again, so far as I can tell, I don't see any path that brings the question of public outreach back to the Board of Supervisors. That's consistent with the fact that, our Board of Supervisors is unlikely, so far as I can see, to actually take up any component of the offshore wind projects for a vote on anything, besides the support we've already offered for it. We don't have land use authority in the city. We don't have operational authority within the port. So by and large, we are interested in getting this money into the hands of the jurisdictions that are actually going to be potentially affected there. And so again, I don't see outreach coming back to the board. Okay, I'll take a look at that. I thought I was pretty confident that it would, but thanks for that. Sure.
Okay, are there any other council members before we jump over to the public? All right, Nairi, I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Hello. My apologies. I could not figure out how to raise my hand earlier. So this question, Supervisor Gibson, I believe you could probably answer it, but it was intended for Claire, if that's okay.
Absolutely. I'll unmute Claire right now.
Thank you.
We'll tag team it, by which I mean Claire will probably.
Yeah. Sorry, Claire. I think there was an email that was sent out tonight by the California Coastal Commission, and it's a notice about an extension for this for SLO County to extend the 6-month deadline to acknowledge and accept the suggested modifications from June. So will Tuesday's meeting just be voting on that extension, or I'm a little bit confused on that notice.
Sure, yeah, that's a great question. So Coastal Commission on June 13th had the hearing on our Los Osos community plan, our amendment to the local coastal program. That's when they gave us kind of tentative approval with those suggested modifications. How things typically work is that the county would have 6 months to act on those suggested modifications. So June, that would have given us 6 months till December. With the October 8th questions and just to have more cushion time in case things take longer, in case the board needs more review of the suggested modifications to the community plan, the Coastal Commission has extended that timeline for us in case we are to need that. But we're pretty confident that next Tuesday, the board will consider the community plan suggested modifications from the Coastal Commission, and we're hopeful those will be approved and adopted.
Got it. Thank you so much.
And I'll just add to that the substance of the suggested modifications is really minor. It's things we knew were coming and a few moving blocks of text around on different pages, and that's about the substance of it. So I don't see major issue discussion.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions for Supervisor Gibson? If not, you are free to go enjoy your evening.
Thank you so much. I'll wander away shortly. I'll listen to the CSD's report and then probably depart.
All right, thank you. And Chuck, you are here for CSD tonight. And there you are. I'm going to ask you to unmute. Perfect, thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
Let's see, where are we today? The trash rates are being reviewed. Last summer, Solid Waste Connections submitted an application for a rate increase. The 10 agencies that are served by that corporation banded together, hired a consultant. We want to prevent the way the rate increase was rolled out last time. Remember the large increase, and part of it was rolled back. We just want to take a good look at whether the rates are being reasonable and fair, and just the way the rate methodology is being used to control costs. So that consultant's work should be done this month and to our board in November. Groundwater monitoring wells. We've got 2 new wells that are being rehabbed. Looks like November 1st, the bids are due, and work should be completed by early next year. When that happens, the Basin Management Committee will have added 5 new lower aquifer monitoring wells to our network since 2022. And I think that's quite an accomplishment. We've got another near Sweet Springs, the 4th and Ramona, somewhere in that neighborhood that'll be coming on soon. There's a grant application that we're working with the Rose Foundation, I believe, in National Estuary Program to put that together. So other district news, our staff has started work on our own rate analysis increase. Seems like everything happens at one time, but trash rates, water rates, every 3 years we look at this. And just to make sure that revenues are keeping up with our expenses. And the goal is to keep rate increases to a minimum and avoid large jumps. And if you remember, the last time we had a series of rate increases, I think it was the 3rd of the 3 we skipped because we did not need it at the time. And so we don't do this lightly, but you have to make sure that we're covering our expenses. So that's going to happen. Stay tuned for that. We've also started work on an emergency services strategic plan. It'll draw from completed studies that looked at staffing levels, operations, and performance by CAL FIRE personnel, and then a comprehensive building assessment of our station, a total look at the emergency services program. Part of the goal is to decide what it would take to go to a level 4 staffing where we have 4 full-time staff on board at all times so that we can handle simultaneous calls. Right now, with only 3 full-time and volunteers, the reserves, paid volunteers actually, we sometimes have only 3 people on, and you can't handle back-to-back calls without calling in help that way. So that's part of what we're looking at, the station upgrade, all of that. And then the last little bit, it looks like March 1st will be the projected date that the latest well that we drilled up in the Bay Oaks area above the Van Bearden buildings. That should be online by about March 1st. So that's the end of a long 3-year process, and that'll again add to the basin management capabilities, not drawing from the west side of the basin where saltwater intrusion is the heaviest. It's all part of the basin management plan, and I'm very happy with that accomplishment. And with that, I'll take questions.
Okay. Any questions from council members? Gary?
Yeah, I had a quick, Chuck. I didn't notice the November 21st meeting is on the website for the Emergency Services Committee. And also, is the strategic plan going to be completed by then?
You know, I doubt if the strategic plan will be completed by then. And if November 21st is the projected quarterly emergency services committee, then I assume that'll happen then.
Okay, they were doing an emergency response plan where they had a draft. I was just wondering if it was close to completion, because Ron indicated at the last meeting it would be there by the fall.
Well, then it probably will be. It sounds like you're a little bit further up on emergency services than I am.
Oh, okay. All right.
All right. Are there any other questions for either the public or council members? All right, Chuck, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, Chamber of Commerce report, Jim.
We have a big party going on Sunday. We hope you all be down to take part. One run starts at 9 o'clock. They register at 7. I'll be down at the barricades at 6:30, ushering the vendors in. And this race starts at 9. They have music starting at 9 in 2 locations on 2nd Street, one in the south end and one at the north. Music from 9 to 11, individual reporters. They have some things going on the stage. And by noon, we'll start with our music, and the beer will flow. We have about, I think it's about, I don't know the exact number. We have as many vendors as we've had in the past, including lots of food vendors. So come prepared to buy your food there.
Okay.
And we
All right.
close up about 5:30. So that's
Okay, good.
in
5:30 is the end. Okay. Any questions for Jim on the chamber? All right, Jim, thank you so much. Hold on, because I know your next report's going to be coming up soon.
Yeah.
For the next item is public comments for items not on the agenda. Do we have any public members here who have some comments that they would like to bring up? All right, I don't see any hands up. In that case, let's go to the treasurer's report. Jim?
Okay, we have a beginning balance in September of $1,067.63. We received a grant from the county, $1,000 per our request, and we got a 9-cent interest payment. We paid out $10 for our PayPal or something, I'm not really sure. And then we have an ending balance of $1,997.72.
Perfect. Okay, any questions for our treasurer? Nope. All right, let's move on to land use, Molly. And Molly's not there. There you are.
I'm here. All right, we had 3 items at our last land use committee meeting that we'll be talking about. 2 of them are going on the consent agenda and one's on the regular agenda. One's a vacation rental, one is a single family dwelling, a new house, and those are both on consent. And then the third one on the regular agenda is for a hotel, 10-unit hotel in Los Osos.
All right, thank you so much. Let's go to trees and landscaping. Andrea or John, or both?
We actually canceled our tree and landscape meeting for the month of October. We'll have one in November. I think other than that, I have nothing. John, do you have anything to add?
I think we're finally organizing a grevillea planting in front of the chain link fence by the post office in the next month. So some of our members are gonna go out there and clear some of that land and prepare to plant just as the rains come, we hope.
Perfect. Thank you. I have Deborah's active transportation report. I'm just going to go ahead and read it. The transportation report for October 2024. The committee has begun a social media campaign on Nextdoor. Using the Office of Traffic Safety Media Toolkit, that campaign will post awareness messages for safe routes to school, share the road, and other safety slogans. The post will be issued once a month. We ask that the community, if you see these posts, please like them so they will continue to show for more people to respond. The Transportation Committee reviewed the Los Osos Valley Road Corridor Study at the last meeting. Slides of proposed improvements from the 2010 circulation study were compared with existing conditions, and more current comments and concerns were gathered for the county. The county is still taking comments from the community on the corridor study, and you can add your comments by going to their website. The Transportation Committee also discussed the possibility of organizing a bike rodeo at Monarch Grove Elementary School in the spring. More to come on that. Due to the holidays, we're going to have a combined November-December meeting for transportation on December 4th. That's going to be an in-person meeting. I actually recommend that anyone here on LOCAC and anyone from the public, please attend. It's going to be on the corridor study, in-person meeting from, I think it's Josh Roberts is going to be presenting the findings. They have done more work on that. And so that's going to be on December 4th at the CSD office in their boardroom. We've already confirmed with Ron Munns that it is available, and is going to talk about the corridor study and next steps. So as many people as we can to get there to listen to this and to respond, I think will be incredible. We're only going to have one chance, everybody, for us to give our comments and try to make some positive changes to the Los Osos Valley Corridor Plan. And if we don't, and they make a change and we haven't said anything, we're stuck with it. So let's let our voices be heard. And so that will be December 4th at CSD boardroom. So please
What time?
The time is always 6:30 for the Transportation Committee.
All right.
And I will make sure that Deborah sends a notice out to all LOCAC members. Okay. I'll make a note there. Send notice. Okay. On that. All right. I'm done with my arrows so that I can continue. So let's go ahead and move on to our consent items for the agenda. Molly, you want to bring up consent agenda items A and B?
Yes. The first one is a proposed vacation rental at an existing single-family residence at 1510 16th Street. It's family that owns the house, and they have gone through the process with the county to get licensed as a vacation rental. And yeah, we talked with them at the at our land use committee meeting and don't really have any issues with it. Should I talk about the second one also, or do we vote?
No, let's do a motion. Can we have a
Okay.
motion
I
for
move
the,
we approve the first item.
okay, can we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion. Second. Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed? Okay. Okay, pass. All right, go ahead with B, please.
Okay, so the second one is a proposed new single-family residence up in Cabrillo Heights. Sorry, Cabrillo Estates at 248 Travis Street. So it's a single-family residence. This is the one that they had wanted to do a partial road vacation, but that was pulled from the project. So it's just going to be a standard single-family residence on an existing empty lot. That one, the only comments we had for the county was we just wanted to make sure that on the plans that it included the specialized sewer treatment plant that's needed for that, the lamp. Because the minimal plans we got just said septic system and leach field. It didn't call anything out. But anyway, we'll send a note on that. But we did not have any, once they took out the part of the project that was going to be a road vacation, we didn't really have any other issues with the project. So we're the land use committee is, I guess you would say, supporting it.
Move approval.
Okay, a motion from Jim to approve. Can I have a second, please?
I'll second it.
Second, Brad, second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay. All right, I will jump in for the next one. And I see that we have Jeff Edwards here. So this project, grab my notes. This project is actually has two different permits. It's to build 2 additional buildings on the Van Buren site, a total of 7,100 square feet. Each building will have 5 units, 5 hotel units. Each unit will be 1,285 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, kitchenette, living room, and lounge. There will be a parking lot with 16 parking spots, only 2 ADA parking spots. There's a new permit to change this area from commercial office building to commercial retail so they could have a hotel. The new permit is also for an extended stay hotel, 30 days or less. In addition to that, each of the 10 units, hotel units, can be sold to individual owners. And they must follow the Title 19 low flow. So that is kind of the basics to this. So I need everyone to really take a look at this. And I'm going to unmute Jeff Edwards if you would like to give us a 3-minute or less conversation on this project.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair. My name is Jeff Edwards, and I'm appearing this evening on behalf of Bon Air. This is the final phase of a multi-phase project that's been realized over the last 20 years. The physical changes to the site are very minimal. In fact, originally this site, when it was developed, it actually created South Bay Boulevard between Los Osos Valley Road and Bay Oaks Drive. Virtually all of the infrastructure is in place. And I wanted to address the question of zoning or land use category. It is currently office and professional. And once the Los Osos community plan is finalized, it, along with a number of adjacent parcels, will change zoning from commercial retail, or sorry, from office and professional to commercial retail. The most noteworthy point is that under either land use category, that is commercial retail or office and professional, the current proposal is allowed. So there's really no difference in how it's treated by the two land use categories. It will comply with all the provisions of Title 19. The only aspect of the airspace condominium is that it does allow individual ownership. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I'm going to start for the council and then everyone please jump in. So,
And excuse me, Madam Chair, you might introduce Jeremy, who's the county staff person on this matter.
Jeremy is here. He is the county staff person, and so is Claire, who's also county planning. So I do have some questions, concerns. This 10-unit hotel is going to have no lobby, no personnel on site. So I do have concerns about what would happen in a emergency. Another concern I have is the size of the units are the same as a house in Los Osos. I could not see anywhere that these units are ADA compliant. Another question for the planning people here is, how are 10 separate owners a hotel? Wouldn't that be like a condominium timeshare? So instead of calling it a hotel, would it be better to call it an extended stay timeshare or something to that? Would this 10 units, if they have 10 owners, are they going to have an HOA or a management agreement? I still have concern of water use and how long the different owners can stay in the units per year, per month. So those are the questions I have.
I think those would be good questions for Jeremy to answer.
Okay. Jeremy, you're unmuted.
Thank you. Just taking notes here. So thank you, Madam Chair. Jeremy Foreign, County Planning Department. I'm the project planner for this project. I can answer some, but there will be other components that Jeff would have to answer. The question about in case of an emergency, Jeff will have to identify that criteria. The comment about size of a house versus the units, the physical structures themselves, because it is a commercial use, the design of those buildings are compatible for commercial use for meeting the height, width, and massing for a hotel use. So it is compliant with the land use zoning ordinance and this area plan criteria. The other component, the question you had is about ADA compliance. I would have Jeff respond to that because there's different levels of threshold about compliance for each of the structures, depending on the size of them. There's actually the code analysis would have to be done. So Jeff would have to provide more feedback on that. As far the question about timeshare, so this is not a timeshare project. It's just what it is when you have a condominium project, commercial condominium, there's a difference between residential condominiums and commercial. This is a commercial condominium project. Therefore, multiple owners could own their specific unit. Now, the number of days per month and per year are limited to those individual property owners, as well as how long someone can stay. They cannot for people utilizing the units that are not the actual owners, they cannot stay more than 29 days. That would be a restriction, and it does get reviewed as what's called a declarations of covenants and restrictions, and it also gets reported upon annually. The other component is the underlying property owners. They have a maximum, I believe, of 84 days a year max that they can stay in those units. But those also can't be consecutive days. So all those components are reported annually. So when the comment about an HOA, well, it is not necessarily an HOA, but there will be declaration of these covenants monitored and reported upon annually. As far as water use, there is an existing proposed will serve letter from the water agency, and the design of the units would have to be comply with conservation measures, as well as the retrofit program. And I think those were all the main components and questions. I know there's a couple of them that Jeff needed to answer.
Okay, just one other one. Do the owners have to pay the TOT tax?
Yes. Oh, well, the TO, actually, I do not know particularly the TOT tax, how that would be applied. If an underlying landowner is utilizing the space.
Because that's 84 days the county's then not getting taxed.
Right. And that's a great question. I would have to report back to you on where that lies.
Okay.
Yes.
Other questions, or Claire?
Yeah, I think that's just more of a question for the auditor's office that we can coordinate.
Okay. Any other questions from council? Molly.
I have a couple questions. I guess my big sticking point for this is how is it a hotel when there's no staff, there's no on-site staff, there's no lobby. It's just kind of a turnkey thing. So it appears like the use in a way is just a lot more like a vacation rental or a timeshare condo, which is kind of part of what Trish was saying earlier, but I guess I just don't get quite how it's operating as a hotel if it doesn't even have any staff. And I know that, well, maybe Jeff Edwards could expand on, I think, Jeff, you might have said that you were trying to get some kind of waiver or some kind of ability to not have staff, and who would you even get that from? How does that work?
Yes, thank you. Again, my name is Jeff Edwards, and for starters, the chairperson sent out a series of questions in early October, and Mr. Freund did respond to them on October 4th. So many of the questions that were posed recently or just now are covered in that email exchange, and perhaps if it's not been shared with the rest of the members, it could be. So with regard to the question relative to the lobby and the standard hotel check-in process, I would submit that in a post-COVID world, hotels are operated entirely differently today. And with this particular configuration of the buildings and so forth, it's very easy to offer these accommodations without the standard hotel services. Moreover, Mr. Van Beurden's real estate office is within about a 30-second walking distance from this facility. These buildings are in the middle of a complex, if you're not familiar with the project. And so they do have staff there a lot of the day and can respond to any emergencies or that kind of thing. The extended stay units are intended to fulfill an unmet need. If you look at the size of many of the motel rooms in Morro Bay and Los Osos and San Luis for that matter, it's the larger unit that has the kind of amenities that one would be comfortable staying a number of days or a week. It's just not a housing or accommodation type that is existent. So we think this meets an unmet need. So relative to the individual ownership, there is a condominium plan. There is an association of owners. There's a condominium plan. There'll be CC&Rs. And if you do refer to the code sections in the coastal zone land use ordinance that Mr. Freund has presented, it becomes fairly clear that this is a longstanding land use. These are longstanding land use provisions. In terms of water use, these units won't be occupied full-time. In fact, our estimates are anywhere from 60 to 65% occupancy. So by virtue of that alone, the water use is less. We have a gray water system. There's virtually no potable water used for outdoor landscape irrigation. And with those remarks, if there's something I've missed, please let me know.
What about the ADA, Mr. Edwards?
So the ADA requirements, this project will fully comply with all ADA requirements. That's part of the building permit review process. And so when we submit final drawings, our architect will have prepared an analysis relative to the building code requirements. And however it shakes out, this project will comply with. So what that looks like exactly, I'm not sure.
Okay. And Andrea, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this a little bit. So is it termed a hotel? Maybe this question doesn't make sense, but is it termed a hotel because that makes it fit into the zoning? Because it seems to me, I mean, I've never really heard of a hotel condominium combination. And I appreciate your comment about the post-COVID era, but in my travels, you know, I haven't stayed at any place like this, which, you know, it's curious to me. And I am very curious about the ADA, and I feel like I'm looking at the description here of, you know, what each proposed unit has, and I'm just curious how that's going to work in the world of ADA. And I understand, Mr. Edwards, that you're saying that, you know, it will work, but I'm having a difficult time seeing how it will work. So maybe more comment than questions, except for the question about, is the word hotel interjected to make it fit the zoning?
Is that a question?
Yeah, that's a let's say that's a question.
No, answer's no.
If I could add from a planning perspective, I think this is this kind of request for a project does not come up very often in our county, and the word condominium is functional to mean individual ownership, but in our coastal zone land use ordinance is section 2308264 is where hotels and motels that can be owned by individual owners, those specific units, that's where that's described. So it's more, condominiums more functional to mean individual ownership, if that helps.
Thank you, Mom. Thank you very much.
I have one more question that's for Jeremy. Do you know, are there many other unstaffed hotels like this that are operating in the unincorporated parts of the county currently? Do you know if this is common, I guess is my question.
I am not familiar enough with the area of the countywide of other hotels that work in this fashion. But I have heard of it out of the county.
Thank you.
If I may, there's a hotel condominium in Oceano
And what is the name?
You know, I'm not sure. It's just off of Pier Avenue. In fact, it fronts on Pier Avenue, maybe a block and a half west of Highway 1.
Okay. Because I've stayed at a robot hotel in New York City before where, you know, robots took your luggage, robots signed you in, robots did that, but they also had in their lobby, they had real people too. But
We might talk to Elon about that.
yeah, no, I mean, I had enough robots right there. I didn't need more. So yeah, I've seen the robot part where you don't have it as much staffing, but so are there any other questions from staff or community? Gary.
Yes, I had a question. It seems like this is basically like a short-term rental, as Molly said.
Mhm.
Does that fit into the vacation rental ordinance on Los Osos, or is this
No.
because they'll be right next to each other?
It would not, they would, I mean, if they were vacation rental, they have to be 500 feet apart.
Right, and I'm seeing that this is almost a definition of a vacation because it's less than 30 days.
Mhm.
And I was just wondering, I don't see there be any impact because of the area where they're at. It's basically a commercial area, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering if it'd still be under the county purview as a vacation rental.
Not that as Jeremy pointed, not that I am aware of, because the vacation rentals has to do primarily for residential. This is not
Right.
residential, this is commercial.
So-
So all the standards fall under as a hotel commercial use. And being a condominium, then it does have those limitations about how long someone can stay
Right.
throughout the year.
So we kind of go back to what Andrea said, that are we zoning something there? I mean, are we calling it a hotel so that we can zone it commercial retail versus
No.
residential?
It is already the underlying land use is office professional. And when the community plan does get adopted, it gets automatically rezoned to commercial retail. The hotel use itself, that's the use, not the zoning. The hotel use is an allowable use under OP as well as CR, as long as you have to apply, because it's not ministerial, it's a discretionary review. So you have to go through either a minor use permit or a development plan. And this particular location does require a development plan. So the proposed use as a hotel is permitted with the use permit. What the applicant is asking for is that's the use, and then the condominium is the parcel map component of allowing for multiple ownerships. That also falls under what is allowed under Title 23, 08 point, I believe that's the section that Claire was mentioning, point 264, hotel, motels, condominiums, or planned development. It does allow that for hotels. And so I'm like you said, there's two permits. I just don't want you to get confused of the zone change. This, no matter what will happen, this use, hotel use, is allowed under both zoning categories.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying, and I appreciate you explaining it that way. I think for me, it's just looking at it, it looks like it's more like a string of vacation rentals in terms of how it's actually going to get used. It looks like it's a string of vacation rentals, but being called a hotel, even though it doesn't even have any staff. So it's just, yeah, it's.
Yep.
I don't know what else to say. Anyway.
And Andrea has her hand up.
If the proposed use is a hotel, then are there requirements? And I think Trish said something about a waiver. Are there then requirements for staffing and a front lobby and amenities And I do appreciate the comment that, you know, Van Bearden Real Estate is there, but not 24/7 as is normal in hotels. So I guess my question is, with the designated use as a hotel, does that then come with requirements in terms of staffing?
The, so you're correct that there was a waiver request, and, so any of the requests about not requiring a lobby, any of those requests, have to be approved by the Plan Commission. And so there isn't a requirement for providing staffing on site. So what comes down to is how it will end up being managed, and that would be further described through the CCNRs. And Plan Commission could come back and say, no, we want it. We won't accept the waiver, and we want these items included.
Jeremy, could you just further explain? So the waiver, so the waiver is for what? What is the waiver request? And that goes to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission says yay or nay. If they say yay, does then that go to the Board of Soups for a final yay?
Well, if Plan Commission they're the review authority.
Okay.
If it can be appealed to
Okay,
the
gotcha.
Board of Supervisors. And I'm just pulling up their initial response. Sorry. What they were. Actually, I'm going to turn that over to Jeff. Jeff, if he's still there, about what he's requesting for the waiver.
Jeff, I'm going to ask you to unmute again.
Thank you. Okay, so this is the details are all included in correspondence. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to read that. The waiver is specifically related to the common facilities that hotels often have. They include a lobby, employee area, and some service quarters for storage. And again, we've looked at this, and in the combination with the presence that Van Bearden Real Estate has on the site, these uses and the way these accommodations are being offered, they're superfluous. We simply don't feel they're needed for any reason. So we've made that request, and we believe that it's supportable at the Planning Commission. And really, that's all there is to it.
Okay. Any other questions? Brad? Oh, I'm going to unmute you. Don't know. There you go.
What happens to the project if the request is denied?
By whom? By your.
Well, you have to submit the request. To whom do you submit the request for the waiver?
It's already been submitted, so it's going to will be part of our staff analysis.
Right.
Explaining these are the things that are being waived, and the authority comes under the Planning Commission.
And what happens if the Planning Commission says no?
They would be then acting upon either a denial of the permit request or modification to the conditions, whatever conditions are created. And that decision could be then further appealed.
Right.
Again,
right.
if it was approved to the Board of Supervisors.
If it is not approved, can this project go forward?
Not as proposed by the
not as
applicant.
proposed. Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. If there's not any other questions, maybe I'll start with the first motion, and then you all can change it if we need to. I'm going to motion to deny this project until all of our questions have been answered. I think that the planning department personnel have not been able to answer all of our questions. So yeah, I am making a motion to deny this project until all of our questions are answered. Do I get a second? Brad? you
I'll
have a
second.
Molly? Brad, second. All in favor? Opposed? One. Opposed, John and Jim. Okay.
I think I have to disagree. I think the staff from planning have done a fantastic job explaining this.
I also don't have a problem with the project in general, and I think Planning Commission can sort out our concerns. Maybe we can pass on our concerns and they can take it from there. But in general, I think a hotel is, extended stay hotel is a good idea for Los Osos.
And I completely agree with John. I think it's needed in our community, and I think that's what our purview is. Planning, we're not the planning commission.
That's correct.
And if we're opposed to the project, all that is information for the planners. We don't have a say to, you know, approve or deny a project. We're just giving our input.
And so
regardless of which way it goes, we're just giving our input.
So all we're going to do is the comments that have come up tonight, we're just going to send those to Jeremy and to Claire. And Claire, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I just wanted to mention it. I think it'd be helpful to staff if in the recommendation with this motion, if you can include the specific questions that you think are lingering, that would be helpful to staff to incorporate in an analysis for a planning commission.
Perfect. We will do that, and I will share that with the LOCAC committee. Okay. Any other questions on this project? Okay. Let us go ahead and move on to our business item. The only thing that we have down here is Deborah threw out purchasing advertising for the chamber newsletter. What are people's thoughts on that?
Let's do it.
What is she thinking we're going to we're going to advertise something? What's the more detail on that?
I think she has been asked to advertise the chamber newsletter and has no idea what we would put in there. So she wanted to throw that out to the council and see what the council had to think about it. Danielle, I'm going to unmute you. Oops. Okay, try again.
I think this could be just a great community outreach of there's still so many people who don't even know we exist. Just putting an ad in saying, hey guys, we exist, here's our meeting.
Okay.
I think that'd be a great use of the space.
Perfect.
And I don't think it's a bad idea. My question is maybe to Jim, what's the breadth of their newsletter? How many people does it go to?
Probably in the neighborhood of 100. Yeah. We have a newsletter that goes out. We have people who are not members of the chamber necessarily sign up for the newsletter.
Okay.
They don't have an actual count of that. Members of the chamber are approximately 85, and other people on top.
Is there anyone opposed to doing it? Oh, Brad, you're muted again. I don't know what's going on. Go ahead.
What's the cost?
She didn't put that down. I don't know. Jim, do you know what the cost is?
I'm afraid I don't know that information. I've not placed
I mean,
the ad in the.
You know what? Let's bring this to our December meeting because I don't know what the cost is.
Yeah,
And I
my
think-
only
More information. Yeah.
my
Yeah.
only
I think
question
it's a
is,
good idea, but yeah.
what do we get for what we're paying? I mean,
Yeah,
if
I
it's
agree.
if it's a buck a piece, great. If it's $100 a piece, maybe not so much.
Very good.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll let
And-
the chamber know we want a guaranteed return on investment.
There
Dear-
you go. Good luck.
So we need to know how much and the frequency, correct?
Yeah, I like the idea though.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. On that note, we are adjourned at 7:44. Great
Hey,
meeting,
how about that?
people.
All
Nice
Night,
going,
everyone.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.